The enhancement crucible was bigger than Lisa had imagined. When the Zalari moved them from the White Room, she saw corridors that stretched for miles in every direction. The walls were the same curved metal that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Strange symbols glowed along the ceiling in patterns that made no sense. They walked for what felt like hours. Lisa counted over 300 people in their group before she lost track. Jake Morrison stayed close to her and Amy Rodriguez. The three of them had started talking during the night in the White Room. Jake was smart for a soldier, and Amy was the kind of engineer who could figure out how anything worked just by looking at it. "Look at the spacing," Amy whispered as they walked. "These halls are built for creatures much taller than humans, but some of the doorways are smaller. I think there are different species here." Lisa noticed it too. Some of the doors they passed were huge and others were tiny. Through the transparent sections of the walls, she could see other beings moving around. Some looked like the Zalari, but others were completely different. There were short creatures with multiple arms and tall ones that seemed to float instead of walk. "A whole collection," Jake muttered. "How many species do you think they've got here?" Before anyone could answer, their group stopped at a large circular room. The Zalari divided them into smaller groups of about 20 people each. Lisa found herself separated from Jake and Amy. She tried to move toward them, but one of the creatures blocked her path. "Test subjects will be assigned based on compatibility. Profiles," the voice said in her head. "Social attachments from your previous existence are counterproductive." Lisa's group was led to a section marked with glowing blue symbols. Their new quarters looked like a cross between a college dormitory and a laboratory. Each person got a small room with a bed, a desk, and a wall screen that showed incomprehensible alien text. The common area had chairs and tables arranged in precise patterns. Everything was clean and white and sterile. There were no windows, but the walls showed images of pleasant landscapes from various planets. None of them looked like Earth. Dr. Paul Kim was in Lisa's group. He was a physician from Seattle who had been taken from his hospital. There was also Helen Carter, a teacher from Denver, and Steve Walsh, who had been an accountant before the purple beams came down. "They're trying to make us comfortable," Paul observed. "This isn't a prison. It's more like a research facility." "We are the research," Lisa replied. She touched the wall screen in her room, and it immediately displayed her photograph along with text in the alien language. "They're studying us." Over the following days, the real experiments began. The Zalari would call individuals or small groups to different parts of the facility. Lisa was taken to a room filled with devices that looked like a combination of medical equipment and torture devices. The creatures attached sensors to her head and ran tests that made her brain feel like it was being stretched. "Your cognitive patterns are within acceptable parameters," one of them told her afterward. "Enhancement procedures will begin tomorrow." When Lisa returned to her quarters, she found that Helen Carter was gone. The teacher's room was empty and clean, like no one had ever lived there. When Lisa asked about her, the wall screen showed a message that said Helen had been transferred to a different test group, but Lisa did not believe it. She had seen the fear in Helen's eyes during the testing. She had heard the screaming coming from the medical sections late at night. Paul Kim noticed it too. "They're lying about transfers," he whispered to Lisa when they were alone. "I've been keeping track. 17 people from our group have disappeared in 4 days. Lisa felt that cold anger growing stronger. What are they doing to them? "I think they're testing different modification procedures. Some people come back changed. Others don't come back at all." Lisa had noticed the changes too. Steve Walsh had returned from his second testing session completely different. He was calmer and spoke in a flat voice. His eyes looked empty. When Lisa tried to talk to him about escaping, he just stared at her and said escape was illogical and counterproductive. The Zalari had started their modifications. But Lisa was changing too, just not in the way the aliens expected. The sensors and tests were making her mind sharper. She could think faster and remember things more clearly than before. The problem was that she was using these improvements to analyze the facility and plan resistance instead of becoming more compliant. She started mapping the corridors in her head during their daily exercise periods. She memorized the patrol patterns of the Zalari guards. She figured out which sections of the facility held other human groups and which ones contained the other species. During one exercise period, she managed to get close to a group being led to a different section. She recognized Jake Morrison among them. When their eyes met, he gave her a tiny nod. He was thinking the same thing she was. That night, Lisa lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling. The wall screen was showing images of a peaceful alien city, with tall spires and floating vehicles. It was probably supposed to make her feel calm and accepting. Instead, it made her furious. She thought about her life back on Earth, her research at the university, her morning coffee, her students who asked difficult questions and made her think harder, her sister who called every Sunday to complain about her job. All of it was gone because these creatures thought they could improve humanity by removing everything that made humans human. The next morning brought news that made everyone in the facility stop what they were doing. One of the other species had attempted to escape. The Zalari brought all the test subjects to a large central chamber to watch what they called a corrective demonstration. The escaped creature was brought out in restraints. It looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard with bright-colored feathers and intelligent yellow eyes. Lisa could see the fear and defiance in those eyes. It reminded her of the look she had seen in her own mirror back on Earth. This subject attempted to leave the facility without authorization, the lead Zalari announced to everyone. Such behavior demonstrates insufficient adaptation to enhancement protocols. They activated a device that sent visible energy into the creature. It screamed in a way that made every human in the chamber flinch. The sound was pain and terror and desperation all combined into something that cut right through to the soul. When it was over, the creature was different. Its eyes were empty and calm. It stood quietly and waited for instructions like a well-trained animal. Corrective conditioning has restored appropriate behavioral patterns, the Zalari said. This subject will now serve the collective without resistance. Lisa looked around at the other humans. She saw horror and fear on most faces, but she also saw something else. She saw anger. The same cold anger that was growing inside her was growing in them too. The Zalari had made another mistake. They thought showing them this demonstration would make humans more compliant. Instead, they had shown every human in the facility exactly what they were fighting against. That night, Lisa heard quiet sounds in the corridors. Soft footsteps and whispered voices. People moving around when they were supposed to be sleeping. She opened her door carefully and saw Paul Kim in the hallway. He was carrying something wrapped in cloth. Medical supplies, he whispered when he saw her. I took them during testing today. We're going to need them, Lisa nodded. For what? Jake Morrison got a message to our section. He's organizing something. All the human groups are starting to work together. Lisa felt a smile cross her face for the first time since arriving at the facility. What kind of something? Paul looked back down the corridor and then met her eyes. The kind of something that shows these aliens what humans are really capable of when they're pushed too far. Lisa stepped into the hallway. Count me in. The enhancement crucible was about to learn that their experiment was not going according to plan. The Zalari thought they were studying human adaptability and intelligence. What they were actually studying was human resistance and ingenuity. And they were about to get a very comprehensive education on both subjects. 6 months later, Lisa barely recognized herself when she looked in the polished metal surfaces that served as mirrors in her quarters. The cognitive enhancements the Zalari had forced on her were supposed to make her more logical and less emotional. Instead, she had become something the aliens never expected. She was smarter, yes, but she was also angrier and more determined than she had ever been in her life. The resistance network Jake Morrison had started now reached every human section of the enhancement crucible. They used the aliens' own neural communication system against them. The Zalari had installed implants in every human to monitor their thoughts and emotions. What they did not realize was that humans were learning to use those same implants to talk to each other. Lisa had figured out how to send messages through the neural network by thinking in patterns the Zalari monitoring systems would interpret as normal brain activity. She had taught this technique to others, and now information flowed between human groups faster than the aliens could track. Amy's group cracked the door control systems last week. Paul Kim whispered during their daily exercise period. They can open any seal in sections 12 through 18. Lisa nodded while pretending to stretch. Jake says his group found where they keep the other species. Some of them want to help us. It had taken months to discover the truth about the enhancement crucible. The facility was not just a research station. It was a processing center. The Zalari took promising species from across the galaxy, modified them to remove their independence and fighting spirit, then used them as workers and soldiers for collective expansion. The 47 other species the lead Zalari had mentioned were all still here in different sections of the facility. Most of them had been broken by the enhancement process and now served the collective without question. But some individuals from each species had somehow resisted complete modification. These resistors were kept in special containment areas, where the Zalari studied why their techniques had failed. Lisa had made contact with several of them through maintenance tunnels Amy's engineering team had discovered. There was Kex, a reptilian creature whose species had been taken 50 years ago. His people had been fierce warriors before the enhancements turned them into docile construction workers. Kex still remembered what his people had been like, and he burned with the same anger Lisa felt. There was also Yin, a floating jellyfish-like being whose species had once been master artists and philosophers. The Zalari had tried to turn them into data processors by removing their creativity and imagination. Yin had somehow kept parts of her original personality hidden deep in her mind. "The humans are different," Kex had told Lisa during one of their secret meetings. "Your resistance grows stronger under pressure instead of weaker." This has never happened before. Lisa was starting to understand why. The Zalari enhancement process was designed to work on species that became more compliant when faced with overwhelming force. But humans had evolved as pack hunters and social creatures who became more unified when threatened by external enemies. The modifications the aliens forced on them were actually making them more dangerous. Enhanced intelligence gave them better planning abilities. Reduced emotional response in some individuals created perfect strategists who could think clearly under pressure. Physical modifications in others created soldiers who were stronger and faster than any human had ever been. But most importantly, the shared experience of being imprisoned and experimented on had created bonds between humans that were stronger than anything they had felt back on Earth. They were no longer Americans or Europeans or Asians. They were just humans, and they all wanted the same thing: freedom and revenge. The breaking point came when the Zalari decided to test what they called pack loyalty behavior. They selected 30 humans at random from different groups and announced that these individuals would be terminated unless others volunteered to take their places. Lisa was in the main assembly chamber when the announcement was made. She watched as the selected humans were brought out in restraints. She recognized some faces. There was Maria Santos from Jake's group, an engineer who had been helping build their communication network. There was Dr. Kim's friend Robert Chen, a quiet man who had become one of their best scouts. The lead Zalari stood before the assembled humans and other species. "This test will determine the extent of social bonding in your species. We will eliminate these 30 individuals unless others volunteer for termination in their place. You have 1 hour to decide." Lisa felt the familiar cold anger flood through her system. Around her, she could sense the same reaction from every other human in the chamber. The neural network they had built was carrying a wave of fury that connected all 50,000 humans in the facility. What happened next broke the Zalari's scientific protocols completely. Instead of a few volunteers stepping forward or no volunteers at all, every single human in the chamber stood up. In sections throughout the facility, every human was standing. Lisa could feel it through the network. 50,000 people all making the same choice at the same time. "We all volunteer," Lisa said aloud. Her voice carried through the chamber speakers because of the neural implant system. "All of us." The Zalari looked confused. This was not a response their models had predicted. The lead scientist tilted its large head and stared at the humans. "This response is not logical. Volunteering for termination serves no survival benefit for your species." Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers from his section. "You don't understand us at all, do you?" "Explain this behavior," the Zalari demanded. Lisa stepped forward. 6 months of enhancement had made her smarter, but it had also made her more human, not less. "You think our loyalty to each other is a weakness? You think our willingness to sacrifice for the group makes us primitive? You're wrong." She gestured to all the humans around her. "This is why your enhancements aren't working on us. You're trying to remove the very traits that make us strongest: our pack loyalty, our willingness to fight for each other, our refusal to abandon our people." The Zalari scientist made sounds that might have been confusion or frustration. Other species have exhibited similar behaviors initially. The enhancement process corrects these inefficiencies. "No," Lisa said, and she felt the agreement of 50,000 minds connected to hers. "You break other species. You turn them into slaves. But humans don't break that way. We bend and then we snap back twice as hard. Amy Rodriguez's voice joined the conversation from the engineering section. We've been studying your technology while you've been studying us. We know how your systems work now. Paul Kim added from the medical section. We know how to reverse your modifications. Kex's translator allowed his voice to join from the containment area. We know about the other species you've enslaved. Jake Morrison's voice carried the promise that Lisa knew was coming. And we know you're planning to do the same thing to Earth. The lead Zalari took a step backward. For the first time since Lisa had arrived at the facility, one of them looked uncertain. You cannot resist the enhancement process indefinitely. Your neural patterns will eventually adapt to our modifications. Lisa smiled, and she knew that every other human in the facility was smiling too. You're right about one thing. We have adapted, just not the way you wanted. She looked around at the other species in the chamber. Many of them were staring at the humans with something that looked like hope. It had probably been decades since they had seen anyone stand up to the Zalari. You made a mistake when you took us, Lisa continued. You thought we were just another primitive species you could improve and enslave. But we're not like the others. The neural network carried her next words to every human in the facility, and through them to every other species that was listening. You wanted to run an experiment on human adaptability. Congratulations. You're about to see exactly how well we can adapt. The Zalari began moving toward the exits, but Amy Rodriguez's voice stopped them. Oh, and one more thing. Those door controls you thought were secure, we've been able to override them for weeks now. We just wanted to see how far you'd push us before we pushed back. All around the facility, Lisa could hear the sound of locks disengaging and barriers opening. The enhancement crucible's perfect security system was opening like a flower, controlled now by human hands instead of Zalari technology. The experiment was over. The war was about to begin. The uprising began exactly at midnight station time. Lisa had chosen the moment because it was when the Zalari changed their guard shifts and their monitoring systems ran automated diagnostics. For exactly 17 minutes, they would have reduced oversight of the human sections. 17 minutes was all they needed. Amy Rodriguez and her engineering teams had spent months mapping every power conduit, data line, and life support system in their sections of the facility. When Lisa gave the signal through the neural network, they cut power to the Zalari control centers while maintaining it in the human areas. Jake Morrison's people moved through the corridors like shadows. The physical enhancements some of them had received made them faster and stronger than any human soldiers in history. But more importantly, they moved with perfect coordination because they could communicate instantly through their shared neural link. Lisa made her way toward the central command area with Paul Kim and a team of volunteers. The enhanced cognitive abilities the Zalari had forced on her let her process the facility's layout and security patterns in real time. She could see the best routes, predict guard movements, and coordinate with teams throughout the station without speaking a word. The aliens had made them smarter, tougher, and more connected. They had created the perfect resistance force without realizing it. The first Zalari they encountered seemed genuinely confused by what was happening. Lisa could understand their perspective. For thousands of years, their enhancement process had worked perfectly. Every species they had processed became docile and obedient within months of modification. Humans had been in the facility for 6 months and were getting more dangerous every day. Subjects must return to designated areas immediately. The Zalari Guard announced through its translation device. Unauthorized movement will result in corrective conditioning. Jake Morrison appeared behind the creature so quickly it didn't have time to react. The physical modifications had enhanced his speed and strength, but they had not reduced his tactical thinking the way they were supposed to. Instead of becoming a mindless brute, he had become a perfect soldier. The only thing getting conditioned around here is you, Jake said as he disabled the guard's weapon and restraint systems. Throughout the facility, similar scenes were playing out. Human teams were securing control points, disabling security systems, and freeing the other species from their containment areas. The Zalari had designed the enhancement crucible to contain and control dozens of different alien species. They had not designed it to handle a coordinated revolt by enhanced humans, who understood their technology better than they did. Lisa reached the central command center to find chaos. Dozens of Zalari technicians were working frantically at control stations, while alarms sounded throughout the facility. The lead scientist she had spoken to earlier was standing in the middle of the room giving orders in their strange musical language. "Dr. Vexhai," Lisa said as she walked into the command center. The enhanced pattern recognition abilities let her read the alien name symbols on his uniform. "We need to talk." The Zalari turned toward her with those huge black eyes. "Subjects are not permitted in command areas. Return to your designated zone immediately." "I don't think you understand the situation," Lisa replied. Around her, human teams were taking control of the command stations with Amy Rodriguez providing technical guidance through the neural link. "We're not subjects anymore. We're in charge now." Dr. Vexhai made sounds that might have been distress calls. "This behavior is impossible. No enhanced species has ever exhibited organized resistance to this degree. Your modifications should have eliminated aggressive tendencies." Paul Kim joined Lisa at the center of the command area. His medical enhancements had given him the ability to understand alien biology in ways that would have taken years of study before. "That's your problem right there. You assumed aggression and cooperation were opposites. For humans, they're the same thing." "Explain," Dr. Vexhai demanded. Lisa gestured to the screens around them that showed human teams working throughout the facility. "Humans are most aggressive when we're protecting our group. Most cooperative when we're facing an outside threat. You gave us both an outside threat and a group to protect." Amy Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system. "Command center is secure. We have control of all major systems. Also, you might want to see what we found in the data archives." New images appeared on the screens around them. Lisa saw star charts showing the locations of dozens of worlds. Each one was marked with symbols that indicated the species that had been taken from there and the current status of their home planets. "These are all the worlds you've stripped of intelligent life," Lisa said. It was not a question. Dr. Vexhai's posture shifted slightly. "Those worlds now contribute to the expansion and prosperity of the collective. Their populations serve useful purposes throughout our space." "As slaves?" Jake Morrison said as he entered the command center with more human soldiers behind him. "As productive members of a larger civilization," Dr. Vexhai corrected. "They have been freed from the limitations of their primitive natures." Lisa studied the star charts more carefully. Her enhanced memory was processing the information faster than she had ever thought possible. Patterns emerged that made her stomach turn cold. "Earth is next, isn't it?" she asked. The silence from Dr. Vexhai was answer enough. Amy Rodriguez's voice came through the speakers again. "I'm reading through their invasion protocols now. They're planning to take the rest of humanity in the next galactic cycle, about 2 Earth years from now." Lisa felt that familiar cold anger flooding through her system, but this time it was different. This time it was shared by every human connected to the neural network. 50,000 minds all focusing on the same terrible realization. Their families, friends, and everyone they had ever cared about were scheduled to be captured, modified, and enslaved by the Zalari collective. "Here's what's going to happen," Lisa said to Dr. Vexhai. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of 50,000 people behind it. "You're going to call off any plans for Earth. You're going to release all the species you've enslaved. And you're going to leave human space forever." Dr. Vexhai made sounds that might have been laughter. "Impossible. You control this single facility. But the collective spans thousands of worlds. You cannot threaten an empire with one stolen station." Jake Morrison smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You still don't get it, do you? We're not threatening your empire with this station." Paul Kim continued the thought. "We're threatening it with us. 50,000 enhanced humans who now understand your technology and know exactly where all your facilities are." Amy Rodriguez added from the engineering section, "And we're not planning to stay here and defend ourselves." Lisa stepped closer to Dr. Vexhai. The cognitive enhancements let her see possibilities and strategies that would have been invisible to her before. She could see the paths to victory spreading out like a map in her mind. "We're coming for you," she said quietly. "All of you. Every facility, every slave world, every part of your empire that profits from breaking other species. You cannot succeed," Dr. Vexhai insisted. "You are one species against a galactic civilization." "No," Lisa corrected. "We're one species that you made smarter, stronger, and more unified than we've ever been. And we're allied with every other species you've tried to break." Through the facility's communication system, she could hear voices speaking in dozens of alien languages. Kex and his people were organizing their own resistance cells. Yin species was using their enhanced data processing abilities to hack collective networks across the galaxy. Every species the Zalari had tried to enslave was waking up and remembering what they used to be. Your experiment worked, Lisa told Dr. Vexhai. You successfully modified human behavior. You turned us from a species that fought each other into a species that fights for each other. Congratulations. She turned to address the screens that were broadcasting to every part of the facility and every collective outpost that was monitoring their communications. This is Dr. Lisa Grant speaking for humanity and every species you've enslaved. You called this an experiment in human enhancement. We call it a declaration of war. The enhancement crucible's massive engines began powering up as Amy Rodriguez's teams took control of the navigation systems. The facility was no longer a prison. It was now humanity's first warship, heading toward Earth with 50,000 enhanced humans and thousands of allies from other species. Dr. Vexhai stared at the tactical displays showing their course toward human space. You will fail. The collective has resources beyond your comprehension. Lisa smiled as she watched Earth growing larger on the main screen. Then you better hope your resources include finding a way to stop 50,000 humans who have every reason to hate you and all the time in the universe to make you regret what you've done. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin, and the Zalari collective was about to learn what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks through space lanes the Zalari had been using for millennia. Lisa spent every day of that journey learning everything she could about the collective's technology, their military capabilities, and their expansion plans. The cognitive enhancements made it possible for her to absorb information at an incredible rate. But what she learned filled her with determination rather than despair. The collective was vast, spanning thousands of worlds and controlling dozens of enslaved species. Their fleets numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Their technology was advanced beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. By every logical measure, 50,000 enhanced humans should not have been able to threaten such an empire. But Lisa was beginning to understand that logic was not humanity's greatest strength. Jake Morrison had organized the liberated humans into military units based on their different enhancement types. The cognitively enhanced became strategists and coordinators. The physically enhanced became shock troops and boarding specialists. Those with sensory enhancements became scouts and intelligence gatherers. Working together, they formed something the galaxy had never seen before. Amy Rodriguez had converted entire sections of the enhancement crucible into manufacturing facilities. Using collective technology and human engineering principles, they were producing weapons and equipment that combined the best of both civilizations. The results were tools of war that neither species could have created alone. Paul Kim was working with the other enslaved species to reverse decades or centuries of collective modifications. Many of them could not be fully restored to their original states, but they could remember who they had been before the enhancements. That memory was enough to fuel a desire for freedom that burned as hot as humanity's own. When they reached Earth's solar system, Lisa was standing in the command center watching her homeworld grow larger on the main screen. It looked exactly the same as when she had left it. Blue and white and beautiful, innocent of what was coming. Zalari fleet detected, Amy Rodriguez announced from the sensor station. Looks like they moved up their timeline. The screen showed what had to be hundreds of ships surrounding Earth. They were sleek and silver and deadly looking. Landing craft were already descending toward major population centers. They're starting the harvest early, Jake Morrison said grimly, probably because they lost contact with this facility. Lisa felt the familiar cold anger, but this time it was joined by something else. Fear for her family, her friends, everyone she had ever cared about. The neural network carried that fear to every human on the ship and brought back the same emotion amplified 50,000 times. How long until we're in weapons range? Lisa asked. 30 minutes at current speed, Amy replied. But we're outnumbered about 300 to 1. Dr. Vexhai, who had been kept in the command center as a prisoner and advisor, made sounds that might have been satisfaction. Your rescue attempt is futile. A single facility cannot challenge a full collective harvesting fleet. Lisa turned to look at the alien scientist. You still don't understand what you've created, do you? She activated the communication system that would broadcast to the entire collective fleet. Her enhanced voice processing let her speak in multiple languages simultaneously, including the Zalari's musical tones. This is Dr. Lisa Grant of Earth, speaking for humanity and all free species. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from this system or face the consequences. The response came immediately from the collective fleet commander. Unknown vessel. You will submit for inspection and processing. Resistance will result in immediate termination. Counteroffer, Lisa replied. You leave now and we don't turn your entire fleet into scrap metal. Laughter came through the communication system. Not human laughter, but whatever passed for amusement among the Zalari. One vessel against our entire fleet. Your enhancement process has clearly damaged your ability to assess tactical situations accurately. Jake Morrison stepped up to the communication station. Want to bet on that? What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. Amy Rodriguez had spent weeks studying the collective's ship designs and defensive systems. She had found something the aliens never expected anyone to discover. Their ships were designed to fight other collective vessels or primitive species with basic technology. They were not designed to handle opponents who understood their own technology better than they did. Initiating tactical enhancement protocol, Amy announced. The enhancement crucible had been designed as a research facility, not a warship, but Amy had modified every system to serve double duty. The experimental equipment became weapons. The containment fields became shields. The transportation networks became delivery systems for boarding parties. Most importantly, the neural enhancement network that connected all the humans became a tactical coordination system that allowed 50,000 people to function as a single military unit. The first wave of human fighters, launched from the crucible in small craft that Amy had built from spare parts and salvaged equipment. They should have been destroyed instantly by the collective's superior numbers and firepower. Instead, they moved through the enemy fleet like a plague. The enhanced humans could predict the aliens' tactics, adapt to their weapons, and coordinate their attacks with impossible precision. Each small craft was piloted by someone whose reflexes had been enhanced beyond human norms and whose tactical thinking was connected to 50,000 other tactical minds. Within an hour, the collective fleet was in full retreat. Half their ships had been captured or destroyed. The rest were fleeing toward the edge of the solar system with human fighters in pursuit. Lisa stood in the command center, watching the tactical displays with something approaching disbelief. They had done it. 50,000 enhanced humans had defeated a collective fleet that should have been able to conquer Earth without breaking stride. Incoming transmission from Earth, Amy announced. The screen showed the confused face of a United Nations military commander. Unknown vessel, this is General Patricia Hayes of Earth Defense Command. Can you identify yourselves? Lisa smiled as she realized she was about to have the most important conversation in human history. General Hayes, this is Dr. Lisa Grant. I'm calling from a captured alien vessel with about 50,000 other humans who were taken from Earth 6 months ago. The General's expression went through several rapid changes. Dr. Grant, you were reported missing from Denver University. We thought you were dead. Not dead. Enhanced. Lisa gestured to the screen showing the retreating collective fleet, and we brought friends. Over the next few hours, Lisa explained everything to Earth's leaders. The Zalari Collective, the Enhancement Crucible, the enslaved species, and the galaxy-spanning empire that had been planning to harvest humanity like a crop. So what happens now? General Hayes asked when Lisa had finished her report. Lisa looked around the command center at Jake Morrison organizing military units, Amy Rodriguez designing new weapons, and Paul Kim coordinating with the liberated alien species. She thought about the thousands of collective facilities scattered across the galaxy, each one filled with enslaved beings who had once been free. Now we go to war, she said simply. The collective has been enslaving species for thousands of years. They thought humans would just be another addition to their empire. Instead, they've created their own worst enemy. She activated the galactic communication network that would carry her message to every collective outpost, every enslaved world, and every species that had ever been broken by Zalari enhancement technology. This is Lisa Grant speaking for humanity and all free peoples. The Zalari Collective called us an experiment. They wanted to test human adaptability and intelligence. They wanted to see if they could improve us by removing what they saw as our flaws. She paused and felt the attention of billions of beings across the galaxy focusing on her words. The experiment was a success. They made us smarter, stronger, and more unified than we have ever been. They gave us the tools we needed to understand their technology and defeat their forces. Most importantly, they gave us 50,000 reasons to hate everything they represent. The neural network carried her next words to every enhanced human in the fleet and amplified them with the collective will of her entire species. We are coming for you. All of you. Every facility, every slave world, every corner of your empire that profits from breaking the spirits of free beings. We will not stop until every species you have enslaved is free and every world you have conquered is liberated. She looked directly into the camera that was broadcasting her message across the galaxy. You wanted to run an experiment on humanity. Congratulations, you have successfully created a species that will never stop hunting you until justice is served. The enhancement crucibles, engines powered up as Amy Rodriguez plotted a course toward the nearest collective stronghold. Around them, the liberation fleet that humanity had never expected to need was preparing for a war that would reshape the galaxy. Dr. Vexhai watched the preparations with what might have been resignation. You cannot defeat the entire collective. There are too many worlds, too many fleets. Lisa smiled as she watched Earth recede behind them. Lisa Grant was running late for her morning lecture when the sky changed color. She stopped on the steps of the University of Denver Science Building and looked up at what should have been blue October sky. Instead, a strange purple light covered everything like someone had put a filter over the sun. Other people stopped walking too. Students pointed at the sky. Cars slowed down on the street. The purple light grew brighter. Lisa felt a strange tingling in her head like someone was touching her brain with cold fingers. She dropped her coffee cup and watched it shatter on the concrete steps. The sound seemed far away even though it happened right in front of her. Then she heard the voice. It came from inside her head, not through her ears. The voice was calm and spoke perfect English, but it felt wrong somehow. Do not be afraid. You have been chosen for advancement. Your species shows promise. Lisa tried to move, but her body would not obey. She could only stand there and watch as purple beams of light came down from the sky. The beams touched people all around her. Students, teachers, people walking on the sidewalk. Each person the light touched simply disappeared. You will be transported to a facility where you will undergo beneficial modifications. This process will help your species transcend its primitive nature. The voice in her head continued talking, but Lisa was not really listening anymore. She was watching her world disappear around her. The purple beam was getting closer. She could see it moving across the campus like a slow searchlight. Your neural activity indicates high intelligence and adaptability. These traits make you suitable for cognitive enhancement protocols. Lisa wanted to run, but her legs felt like concrete. She wanted to scream, but her voice was gone. The purple beam reached her feet and began moving up her body. She felt warm and cold at the same time. Her vision started to fade. The last thing she saw was her reflection in the science building windows. She looked calm and peaceful even though inside she was terrified. Then everything went dark. When Lisa woke up, she was lying on a metal table in a white room. The walls curved in a way that hurt her eyes to look at. Everything was too bright and too clean. She sat up slowly and felt dizzy. Her head still had that cold, tingling feeling. Other people were waking up on tables around her. She recognized some faces from the university, but there were strangers too. Men and women of different ages. All of them looked confused and scared. "Where are we?" asked a woman with short gray hair. She was wearing a business suit that was now wrinkled and dirty. Before anyone could answer, part of the curved wall opened up. 3 figures walked into the room. Lisa had never seen anything like them before. They were tall and thin with pale gray skin. Their heads were larger than human heads and their eyes were huge and black. They wore silver clothing that seemed to glow. One of the creatures stepped forward and that same calm voice filled everyone's head. "Welcome to the Enhancement Crucible. You are the first group of test subjects from the planet you call Earth. We are the Zalari Collective. We conduct uplift experiments on promising species throughout the galaxy." Lisa found her voice. "Test subjects? What do you mean test subjects?" The creature turned its large black eyes toward her. "Your species has shown unusual neural plasticity and adaptability. These traits suggest you may benefit from our enhancement protocols. We will modify your cognitive abilities, emotional responses, and physical capabilities to help you evolve beyond your current limitations. A man in the corner spoke up. He was wearing military clothing and had short brown hair. "You mean you're going to experiment on us?" "We prefer to call it advancement," the creature replied. "Your species suffers from many primitive behaviors. Violence, irrationality, emotional instability. We will correct these flaws." The military man stood up from his table. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison, United States Marine Corps. What you're talking about is kidnapping and assault. We demand to be returned to Earth immediately." The creature tilted its head like it was trying to understand something strange. "Your aggressive response demonstrates exactly the type of behavior that requires correction. You will undergo modifications that will reduce these violent tendencies." Lisa looked around the room and counted about 50 people. "How many of us did you take?" 50,000 specimens have been collected from major population centers on your world. You will be divided into different test groups based on psychological profiles and aptitude assessments." The woman in the business suit started crying. 50,000 people, my family. They won't know what happened to me." "Your previous social bonds are no longer relevant," the creature said. "You will form new associations based on your enhanced capabilities." Jake Morrison took a step toward the creatures. "Like hell we will." 2 more creatures appeared at the doorway. They held strange silver devices that hummed with energy. "Aggressive behavior will result in immediate corrective conditioning," the first creature said. "We recommend cooperation for optimal results." Lisa felt anger building in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She was a scientist. She needed to think like one. "What exactly do these enhancement protocols involve?" "You have been selected for cognitive enhancement based on your neural patterns. Your intelligence will be increased while emotional responses are reduced. This will make you more logical and efficient. And if we refuse?" The creature's expression did not change. "Refusal is not possible. The modifications have already begun through atmospheric agents in this facility. Your brain chemistry is already adapting to our influence." Lisa felt that cold tingling in her head again. She wondered if it was true. Were they already changing her somehow? Another person spoke up. It was a young woman with dark hair wearing a doctor's coat. "I'm Dr. Amy Rodriguez. I'm an engineer. What you're describing sounds like you're trying to remove what makes us human." "Correct," the creature replied. "Your humanity, as you call it, is what limits your species. Emotional attachments, irrational decision-making, violent impulses. These traits prevent advancement." Jake Morrison's hands were clenched into fists. "Those traits are what make us strong. Your strength is an illusion. We have conducted these experiments on 47 other species. All have benefited from our modifications. All have transcended their primitive natures." Lisa asked the question that was forming in her mind. What happened to those other species? They now serve the collective in various capacities throughout the galaxy. They are content and productive. The way the creature said it made Lisa's stomach turn cold. She looked at Jake Morrison and saw the same understanding in his eyes. These aliens had not enhanced the other species. They had enslaved them. "The enhancement process will begin tomorrow," the creature continued. "You will be sorted into appropriate test groups and assigned to different sections of the facility. Cooperation will make the process less traumatic." The creatures turned and walked back through the wall opening. The opening sealed itself behind them and disappeared completely. The room was silent except for the sound of people crying and breathing hard. Jake Morrison looked around at everyone. "They made a mistake," he said quietly. "They took the wrong species," Lisa nodded. She felt something growing inside her that the aliens probably did not expect. It was not fear or sadness. It was anger. Cold, calculating anger. They wanted to take away what made humans human. She would make sure they regretted that choice.